Someone asks you a question. It sounds completely harmless, but in that very moment, you feel the pressure to answer right away. There's something in their tone, something in the way they look at you, that makes your chest tighten, as if they're guiding you toward a conclusion you're not yet ready to accept. Smart manipulators rarely give orders. They lead through questions. Instead of forcing you, they drop carefully crafted questions, tiny psychological needles that slip into your thoughts, making you voluntarily say exactly what they want to hear. The most dangerous part, you think it's your choice when in truth, you're being pulled by invisible strings. But this isn't a warning to make you suspicious of everyone. The goal is to help you notice when a question is meant to control, rather than to understand. Epictetus once said, "No one can manipulate you unless you allow it." And today, you're going to uncover the 8 most common manipulative questions. The ones that make you doubt yourself, feel guilty, and sometimes lose control over your own thoughts. So how can you protect your mind from these invisible forms of manipulation? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Not just how these questions work, but how to recognize them the very moment they appear. How to stand your ground and respond without surrendering your inner power. Because the ability to see manipulation does more than protect you. It gives you clarity, freedom, and dignity in every conversation you have. So, let's begin with the question that strikes hardest, the one that turns your kindness and your empathy into weapons used against you. Have you ever heard a question that sounds so innocent? Like, "Don't you care about your family?" And in just a split second, you find yourself slightly nodding or scrambling for an explanation. Damn, bro, that's not a genuine question. That's a trap. One of the most powerful forms of psychological manipulation is the one that strikes at your kindness. You see it, right? The person speaks softly. Their tone is gentle. "Hey, I'm just curious. But don't you care about your family?" It sounds like concern. It sounds like advice. But hidden inside those words is a message. If you don't agree with me, you're a bad person. Your heart beats a little faster. You start to say, "No, I do care. I've been doing a lot." And somewhere in your mind, you realize you're being accused. Why does this happen? Because in everyday communication, some people don't need to give commands. They just need the right question to make you obey. Maybe they were once rejected or abandoned, so they learned how to use affection as a weapon. Or maybe you're the kind one, the one who always put others first, the one who once felt guilty for saying no. So when that question hits, your automatic reflex fires up. I don't want to be seen as heartless. Scientifically, your brain's reticular activating system, the RAS, lights up like a siren. Alert, I'm being judged. You don't need to know the neuroscience. You just feel it. But here's where the Stoics step in. They say the attack happens right in the space you can control. Your perception of yourself. An average person, when hearing "don't you care," feels hurt, embarrassed, and they react or shut down. But a Stoic knows they're being invited into a psychological game. They see the question for what it is, a small, subtle duel. They don't react. They don't rush to defend. They pause, take a breath, and respond from a place of control. And you? Maybe you'd say, "I do care, but I also have limits." But your tone carries a hint of justification, a touch of being cornered. You're reacting, not reflecting. Listen to Epictetus. No man is free who is not master of himself. If you let a question that you didn't choose control your emotions and actions, bro, you're losing your freedom. If you keep getting triggered by guilt for not doing enough for others, you're giving away the right to set your own boundaries and your own dignity. Stoicism doesn't say abandon emotion. It says master it. To master emotion doesn't mean to turn into a robot. It means knowing you get to choose your reaction when someone tries to corner you emotionally. I remember once telling my mom, "I'm going to take a break from my job, do some consulting." have more freedom. She looked at me and said, coldly, don't you care about the family? It sounded calm, but inside me, damn, she's calling me selfish. I started explaining, started proving. I still pay the mortgage. I still call every week, but it all slipped downhill. I let the need to prove myself take over. Then I stopped. I said, Mom, I do care about the family, but I also need this step. And like Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and it is won by disregarding things beyond our control. I set my boundary. I said yes to caring and no to guilt as a form of control. From that, you learn empathy. You can truly care without being controlled. Perspective. You see when someone plays emotional games, resilience. You stand tall without needing to ask for approval. You don't need to be the caring one to be validated. You are the one who chooses to care, and the one who chooses your limits. Okay, bro, you've just spotted the trap. Don't you care? But the game doesn't stop there. The next move strikes even deeper, at that quiet voice inside you that whispers, am I right? So get ready for the next one. You really think that? The seed of self-doubt. You just shared an opinion. Maybe it's in a company meeting where you proposed a new solution. Or maybe it's during a personal conversation where you expressed an important decision. You thought it through, carefully. It comes from real experience. What you've seen, what you've learned. You didn't speak to impose. You spoke like an adult, someone who owns their perspective. And then, the person across from you doesn't argue. They don't offer a counterpoint. They don't ask to understand more. They just look up, slightly nod, half smile, and drop a line that feels harmless. Oh, you really think that? Just one sentence, soft, polite, but it lands like a slip on cold stone. Your mind stumbles for a second. That question isn't meant to understand you. It's not an invitation for dialogue. It's a period disguised as a question mark. What it really does is plant a seed of doubt in your mind. Why does it work so well? Because skilled manipulators don't need to shout. They don't need to criticize. They just make you doubt yourself. For those who've been labeled stubborn, too confident, or someone who doesn't listen, this kind of question hits an old scar. Suddenly your mind fires up with thoughts. Am I saying something unreasonable? Is my point too narrow? Am I being overconfident? If they said nothing, do they think I'm foolish? You don't notice it, but your reticular activating system, the RAS, starts scanning. It replays every moment you might have been wrong before. It rewinds the times you were judged, laughed at, or embarrassed, and in a heartbeat, you're pulled back into that memory, even when you're right now. How do most people react? They go silent, force a smile, then quietly withdraw their idea. Or worse, they start justifying themselves, explaining endlessly, just to prove they're not stupid. Stoics are different. They pause. They don't react. They observe. And they ask themselves, where is this doubt coming from? From truth, or from a power game? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake or misconception, I will gladly change. It is the truth I am after, and the truth never harmed anyone. Stoics aren't afraid of being wrong. They welcome correction, but they don't bow to ambiguity. I once spent nearly a year writing my first book. Deep topic, polished prose, about 80% done, and I felt confident. One day, I shared the idea with a friend in publishing. She listened quietly, then smiled and asked softly, oh, you really think readers will be interested in that? She didn't say it was bad. She didn't disagree. Just that one question, and I stopped writing for 3 months. Not because she was right, but because I allowed that question to become a verdict. It wasn't a question to answer, but I spent months trying to answer it. That was my mistake. You don't have to prove yourself every time someone doubts you. If someone asks, you really think that, and says nothing else, step back. Ask yourself, Is this person trying to understand me? Or are they planting doubt to keep control of the conversation? If they don't continue, you don't need to retreat. You have the right to stand in the clarity of your own mind. Don't let a vague question shatter the confidence you built through awareness. Don't let a doubtful look extinguish the fire you hold inside. If something truly needs correction, truth will reveal it, not suggestion. And when doubt has been planted inside you, like a rusty hook in your mind, another question will follow. A knockout blow. Are you sure you're good enough to do this? You've spent weeks preparing for something important. You researched every detail. You practiced. You rewrote your slides for times. You rehearsed your opening line in the mirror until your voice stopped trembling. This is the opportunity you've dreamed of. It's finally your time to step up. And just as you're about to walk into the meeting room, someone passes by, speaking in that helpful tone, and says, "Hey, are you sure you're good enough to do this?" One question, no malice, no shouting, but it hits the core of who you are, your sense of worthiness. They're not giving feedback. They're not offering insight. They're just lighting a match. That question isn't meant to make you better. It doesn't point out mistakes. It doesn't suggest what to improve. It has only one purpose: to make you reevaluate your entire self into seconds. As if all those weeks of preparation suddenly mean nothing. Why does it work so effectively? Because human beings, especially men who are trying to rise, carry an invisible burden inside. I have to prove I'm good enough. I have to know exactly what I'm doing. I can't fail. That question, "Are you sure you're good enough?" scratches right where it hurts, in the place you don't want anyone to see. Biologically, it triggers your fight or flight system. Your amygdala wakes up, reminding you of every moment you failed, every time you froze, every time you were embarrassed. Your reticular activating system, the RAS, starts replaying memories. You tried to bury in just 3 seconds. You're no longer the confident adult. You're that kid who got called by the wrong name in class. You're the employee who once gave the wrong number. You're the person who got rejected in public. And now you're thinking about that, instead of focusing on what's in front of you. Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." The Stoics understood something simple. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from a clear choice. I'm not perfect, but I've prepared, and I'm stepping in with everything I have. Other people's doubts only carry weight if you give them that power. Once, I was invited to present a new strategic plan to the entire company. A room full of executives, people who could make others tremble with just a look. I prepared obsessively, went to bed early the night before, woke up early, perfect suit, perfect coffee, printed documents ready. As I stepped out of the elevator, my heart was steady, calm, but strong. And then a colleague, someone I once considered a friend, walked by, tapped my shoulder, and said, "Bro, you sure you've covered all the hard questions? They usually hit pretty tough." He wasn't wrong. He wasn't toxic. Just a soft drop of dust in the air. But that question landed on an old wound. My hands turned a little cold, my mouth a bit dry. All that preparation shifted into worry about what I might have missed. You could wait until you feel perfect, but by then, the opportunity will be gone. You don't need to feel good enough to begin. You only need to be committed enough to learn if you fail. And if someone asks you, "Are you sure you're good enough?" answer quietly in your mind, "I'm sure I'm not perfect, but I'm sure I'm ready." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You can't control what people choose to ask, but you can always control the answer you give to yourself. But sometimes, they don't question your ability. They question your reason, the why behind what you want to do. And they lace that question with a cruel little label: selfish. Next comes the emotional strike we've all faced before. So, that's what you really want when your choice gets branded as selfish. You've been working 12 hours a day all week. Your body begins to fight back. A dull headache, restless sleep, tired eyes. You decide, this weekend, I need rest, I need space to breathe. You say it to your family, or maybe to your closest friends. Your voice is gentle, even a little apologetic, and then someone replies, softly, so, you just want to abandon everyone? It sounds like a mild reproach, but it's really a punch to your self-respect. That question isn't meant to understand you. It's meant to accuse you, quietly. And in that instant, you begin to doubt your own decision. Am I being selfish? Maybe I should push a little harder. What will people think of me? That single question turns the right to choose what's healthy for you into a moral trial. Why does it hit so deep? Because every one of us carries a longing to be accepted, to be loved. We were taught from childhood, good people don't make others sad. So when we say no and someone labels it selfish, we instantly feel guilty. The question, so, that's what you want, isn't about intention. It simply stamps a label. If you choose this, you're a bad person. Epictetus once said, take this moment. Immerse yourself in it. Suck everything you can out of it. This moment is your life. To the Stoics, choice is sacred. You can't live a true life if every choice you make is driven by fear of someone else's guilt trap. They understood. Kindness does not mean surrendering to another person's emotions. A friend once told me her story. She had worked non-stop for 6 months, caring for her family, helping friends, carrying every responsibility. When she finally said, I need 3 days alone to recharge, her mother simply replied, so, you're choosing yourself? No. Shouting. No anger, just enough force in that tone to make her cancel the trip, she told me. Suddenly I felt like a selfish kid who only thought about herself. Damn. 3 months later, she burned out, hard. Not because she lacked time to rest, but because every time she tried, she felt wrong for wanting it. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's responsibility to yourself and to the people you love. If you keep denying your own needs just to please others, you'll run out of anything real to give. You're burning fuel without a tank limit. True kindness comes with clarity. You can care without agreeing. You can say no without becoming the villain. So when someone asks, so, you're choosing that? You can smile and say, yeah, I'm choosing that, because I care about myself too. And as Marcus Aurelius wrote, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. The truth is, not everyone will label you directly as selfish. Some are smarter, more subtle. They won't attach a name. They'll just ask, politely, and they'll start with a question that sounds caring, but is actually a judgment wrapped in courtesy. Why would you? You just made a turn in your life. Maybe you quit a stable job. After 5 years, maybe you ended a long relationship that no longer fit. Or maybe you simply chose to rest, to pause, to find yourself again. And someone, a colleague, a family member, even a friend you once trusted, asks, why would you do that? Why did you quit? Why choose that job? Why cut them off? It sounds reasonable. It sounds like concern. But the way they ask, the eyes, the tone, the timing, makes it feel like an interrogation. That question isn't meant to understand. It's meant to make you justify. It hides behind politeness, but underneath is the message. I think you just made a mistake. You're walking away from something good. You're ruining what I value. It makes you feel as if you have to ask permission for a decision you've already thought through. And any explanation you give becomes ammunition for more questioning. You've been pulled into an investigation for a crime you never committed, because it puts you in the role of doubting your own clarity. You start asking yourself, was I too impulsive? Am I just giving up? Will I regret this? And when the person asking is someone you respect, a former boss, a teacher, a parent, or a partner, the weight doubles. Science calls this a social judgment trigger response. It activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain that processes rejection and blame. You begin to self-criticize, even when you were once completely sure. Seneca wrote, "Other people's opinions have no power over you unless you allow them to." A Stoic doesn't reject all feedback. They simply know the difference between honest reflection and a disguised reaction. They pause and ask inside, does this person truly want to understand, or do they want me to regret? Are they giving feedback or expressing disappointment that I didn't follow their script? Once, I told my family I wanted to leave banking after 8 years to write and work independently. My mother set down her chopsticks and asked, "Why would you quit a stable job? Why choose something so uncertain?" I knew she was worried, but at that moment, I wasn't given the space to explain. Every word I said felt like I was defending a mistake I hadn't even made. I had a plan, a savings cushion, months of preparation. I was ready, yet the way the question was asked made me feel like a child breaking a family rule. Not every question deserves an answer. Not everyone who wonders deserves full access to your choices. You owe no one a detailed report for every turning point in your life. You only need to remember why you started. So when someone asks, "Why would you do that?" you can smile and say, "Because it felt right at that moment. And if it's wrong, I'll learn what I need to learn." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you. That will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. If explaining yourself makes you lose self-respect, reason, and inner peace, then the price is too high." And when they realize you're not easy to pull into their web of questioning, they shift strategy. They stop asking why. They start leading you toward a conclusion you don't yet notice. A subtler trap, disguised as logic. Don't you think that? You're standing at a crossroads. Maybe you're deciding whether to hand a project to a new co-worker, or maybe you're considering defending someone who isn't very popular. You haven't said a word yet. You're still observing, still thinking, and then someone approaches, soft voice, sincere expression, and says, almost casually, "Don't you think Mark isn't quite capable yet?" You pause. It sounds like a friendly invitation to talk, but it isn't. It's a statement, wrapped in a question mark. Why is this kind of question dangerous? Because it doesn't let you reach your own conclusion. It leads you straight to theirs. You think you're engaging in a conversation, but you're being guided toward an answer that was decided before you ever spoke. And if you disagree, you get labeled instantly. "Oh, you don't see it that way. You're being emotional. You're defending someone who doesn't deserve it." Here's the psychology behind it. Human beings crave being seen as reasonable, as agreeable. When someone asks a question that starts with "don't you think?" they position their opinion as the logical, normal one. If you disagree, you're the strange one. If you agree, you belong. And the worst part, you agree just to avoid being judged. Biologically, that's a social defense mechanism. We avoid social friction, but the cost is clarity. You lose your inner compass. Epictetus said it best, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Stoics don't get dragged into games of guided words. They don't argue loudly, and they don't nod just to keep peace. They step back for a second and ask themselves, do I really think this? Or am I just afraid of being different? Stoics aren't afraid to stand alone when what they believe is right. I once worked in a product development team. One day, the team leader asked everyone, "Don't you think John should handle the clients instead of Anna? She's a bit too dreamy, isn't she?" The room went quiet. One person nodded slightly. Another smiled awkwardly. Something felt off. Anna was actually the most experienced one, just more creative than the rest. I didn't want to stay silent, but I also didn't want to look like I was taking sides. After a pause, I said, "I think both have strengths. If we have to decide, Let's look at the client feedback data. No opposition, no agreement, just taking back my own judgment. When someone asks, "Don't you think that?" Don't answer right away. Pause, analyze. Ask back, "I'd like to share my view." But are you making a statement or asking a genuine question? If they really want a dialogue, they'll listen. If they just want a nod, they'll freeze or change the subject. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." You don't need agreement to be accepted. You only need to agree with what's right, even if it means standing alone. But here's the thing. Sometimes they don't need you to agree. They don't ask you to take sides. They just want you to doubt your ability to decide at all. They don't lead you to their conclusion. They push you out of your own authority. And they do it with a question that sounds so harmless. Are you sure you know what you're doing? You're about to take a big step. Maybe it's starting your own business, changing careers, leaving the city, or simply chasing something that finally feels right for you. You're not being impulsive. You've planned. You've written, compared, calculated. You've thought it through. And just as you begin to move forward, someone approaches, eyes full of concern, and gently asks, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" It sounds like care, but it isn't curiosity. It's doubt. It doesn't ask to understand you. It questions your ability to decide for yourself. A short question with a long echo. What do you feel in that moment? A slight chill down your spine. A brief silence in your mind. Then the storm begins. Am I oversimplifying this? Have I missed the risks? Am I overestimating myself? And worse, that question never comes with feedback. It doesn't point out what's wrong. It just leaves you hanging in a fog of uncertainty. Why does it stop you cold? Because it strikes the most fragile core of all, your sense of control. Every human needs to feel, "I know what I'm doing." That feeling is the foundation of confidence, direction, maturity. But that question, it doesn't just doubt your action. It doubts your ability to think and choose. Neurologically, it hits your prefrontal cortex, the part that governs reasoning and decision-making. When triggered by language of doubt, your brain runs backward through every recent choice, searching for errors that never existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The Stoics didn't react to every question. They went to the rote. Did I act according to my principles? Am I seeking truth or approval? To them, the right to choose was sacred. You can listen to advice, but you are the one who decides, and you must be strong enough to bear that responsibility. Once, I was preparing to launch my first course. 6 months of design, writing, testing, and gathering feedback from a small group. I shared it with an older mentor, hoping for encouragement. He frowned and said, "Are you sure you're ready? Have you thought about the marketing risks? The online course space is tough." He wasn't wrong, but he didn't offer solutions. He wasn't questioning the product, he was questioning me. And I delayed the launch for 2 months, thinking, maybe I'm not ready yet. What I forgot was this: readiness is never absolute. It's not "I'm fully prepared." It's "I'm ready to start with what I have and improve as I go." So when someone asks you, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" answer quietly in your mind, "I don't need to know everything. I just need to know why I chose this, and have the courage to learn if I'm wrong." Marcus Aurelius also said, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." You don't need every answer right now. You just need the commitment to face the question when it comes. But when doubting your direction doesn't make you turn back, they play their final card, a stronger one. It doesn't question your ability. It doesn't question your decision. It simply paints the darkest picture possible, the one your mind fears most. What if you fail? You've just taken a new step, a project, a big decision, a dream you've carried for years. You're not being reckless. You've thought it through. You know the risks. You've prepared. You've built your plan carefully. And then, someone shows up. Not with criticism. Not with doubt. Not even with negativity. They simply drop a gentle line, as if they're helping you. Think it through. What if you fail? The psychological trap doesn't need noise. At first glance, it sounds like a fair question, right? Anyone has the right to ask. Wrong. Because the meaning of the question isn't in the words, it's in the intent. What if you fail? Isn't about preparation. It doesn't show up when you're being careless. It shows up when you're about to act. Just as you're ready to focus. They plant a storm of worst-case scenarios in your head. What happens in your mind right after? What if I really fail? What if I lose everything? What if I disappoint everyone? What if I can't recover? 5 seconds. That's all it takes. Your brain switches to survival mode. Your nervous system reacts as if failure is already happening. Cortisol spikes. Your heart rate jumps. Your breath shortens. You stop seeing opportunity and start imagining collapse. Our brains carry a negativity bias, a built-in tendency to remember and react more strongly to the negative. That single question, what if you fail, activates the most dangerous theater in your imagination, making you live in what could go wrong instead of what could go right. This isn't caution. This is manipulation, a distortion of risk that turns imagination into paralysis. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Today I escaped from anxiety." Or no, I discarded it. Because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. To the Stoics, failure isn't the enemy. Fear of failure is. They draw a clear line between two mindsets. Preparing for risk gives that's planning. Drowning in fear gives that self-sabotage. So they ask themselves, what in this question is real, and what is just exaggerated imagination? I once wanted to start a personal podcast about Stoicism in modern life. I had my ideas, 10 episodes outlined, a mic ready, the studio booked, when I told a friend. He smiled and asked, "Great idea, but what if no one listens? What if after 3 months, you're still stuck at a few dozen views? What if it wastes your time and earns you nothing?" I laughed, nodded. But inside, something turned cold. That night, I canceled the recording. The next week, I got busy. 3 months later, my podcast script was still untouched. In the same folder. It wasn't lack of preparation. It was letting one question plant a disaster in my mind. If you fail, you'll learn. If you're not ready, you'll adjust. But if you quit because someone else's fear infected you, you lose both the lesson and the victory. Next time someone asks, "What if you fail?" smile and say, "Then at least I'll know who I am, and I'll never have to wonder, what would have happened if I'd tried?" Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You might fail, that's fine, but the way you face fear, that's what defines you. Because failure doesn't destroy you, fear does. And sometimes, the loudest voice of fear doesn't shout from the outside, it whispers from within. If you're still watching this, it's probably because you've felt deeply what I've been talking about. You've been manipulated, not through actions, but through questions that seemed harmless. They didn't force you. They just asked, "You don't care? Are you sure you're good enough? What if you fail?" And just like that, you ended up doing exactly what they wanted. No one gave you orders. You simply stepped away from the center of your own life. This video isn't just about exposing manipulation. It's a map, a guide to help you recognize when your kindness is being weaponized, when you're being pushed to choose between reason and someone else's emotion, when you've stopped thinking critically and started interrogating yourself instead. Each question, from "You really think that?" to "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" none of them are seeking answers. They're designed to make you surrender yourself. Stoicism doesn't teach you to always be right. It teaches you to stay clear inside, even when others use every trick to make you doubt who you are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. No one can disturb your peace unless you allow them to. And that's the heart of this entire video. If you've watched this far, you've already learned 3 essential truths. 1. Questions can be tools of manipulation if you're not awake to them. 2. You don't have to fight back to protect yourself. You just have to see through the game. 3. Real strength comes from living with direction. Gives not being led by someone else's words. Gives not losing focus because of a vague suggestion. Gives in never letting the feeling of not being enough decide your next move. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below and write, "I live with direction," because you're not alone. We all carry invisible battles. Let's carry each other. Let's learn how to protect the mind and move toward clarity, calm, and freedom. Peace is power. Silence is strength. Live deliberately. Calm is a weapon. Awareness is the foundation. To live with intention is to stop being controlled and start steering your own ship. And if you found value in this message, don't forget to like the video. Share it with a brother who needs to hear this. Comment your reflections and subscribe with the notification bell on so you never miss another step. In building inner resilience, we don't need to shout to be strong. We just need to be quiet enough not to be led by noise. See you in the next episode of Stoic Seeds, where every moment of calm thought becomes a seed of strength.